Hi, I'm Rajiv Menon. You're watching Provoke TV. In Minsara Kanavu, I was making something, I was really inspired by Broadway musicals. So I was creating an environment where, the two musicals that I really liked, one was A Sound of Music and one was, I had seen an opera called Barber of Seville. So the character of the barber came from there, and the nun walked out of thing, and then if they met somewhere in some fictional space, what would happen was my idea. So it's essentially driven by the musical as an idea in the Broadway sense. When it came to Kandugundane, I was really looking at Indianized take on Austen, and I saw Jane Austen as, of course, a person who wrote the comedy plot in a different way, but also wrote female protagonists. But you have to understand that she wrote it before the suffragettist movement, before women got voting rights and before they got land rights. So all they could do is wait for love and honor. So what I wanted to say is that today, if you were to make a film like that, it may be irrelevant and may seem slightly regressive. So I was also trying to weave in the social. So the social and aspect is kind of, to me, as interesting as the dramatic. That has become more important for me. I believe, characters have to have three dimensions. Sometimes they say she's a beautiful girl or he's a handsome man. Well, then what? So that's a physical aspect where there's somebody's tall, dark thing. And then there is also the aspect that where does this person come from? Is he the first in the class or is he the last in the class? So the last in the class becoming the first in the class would be your narrative, because it's about change. And then there is the psychological. So the social is, does he have respect or is he looking for respect? Does he have the position or is he going to lose it in that sense? But when it comes to the psychological, what are you carrying with you? What is your family values? How are you going to change? How are you going to discover yourself? These things, to make 3D characters is something that I really like, because I believe if films are very plot driven but not character driven, it sort of feels a little manipulated, you feel. I do very, very actively involve myself in the music. I know AR from when he was Dilip, when he wasn't AR, and when he wasn't famous. So we used to jam together and discuss ideas, but I would sometimes have tunes. Even when we were doing jingles, there are some tunes that I have, sung out and he would do. Like the Synthol jingle was my tune, and we did it together. But when it came to the feature film, it was a different skill set, So I would have some ideas in my mind that, when the guy and the girl meet, it's not that, wow, you're so beautiful. Instead of that, saying, why is the nose so big? So if he said that, then what would happen, So then he would then use the restaurant and he would take the cloths and he would do it and it looked like a Spanish thing, and I would be saying all this. Suddenly AR would be hearing all this and go pam pa 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 pam pa 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 pam pa 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 pam. He would be playing that. So I would be described. For me, I think it's very important in a song as to how the song comes in. So what's the tone and tenor? If you tell a music director, okay, go and compose a tune, then the music director sits in his isolation and just composes a love song. But if you tell him the lead in, what is the environment and what kind of sound will work in an Irani cafe, then I think it works for the music director to be a little more creative in the sound aspect. And then you also work with who the singers are, what the lyrics is, and I feel these things are very important. The appropriate lyrics, appropriate sound design, and thing. So it's a thing that we all often discuss. I think all of us have sort of a like say core memory. We have a core emotion that we really connect with. I do believe that music heals and unites people in a way everything else doesn't, So when you I remember the times that I first heard Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan. It was through AR, where we were listening to it, and it was shocking to me, like, the way he was singing. And the first thing that struck me is, oh God, why did they divide this country? I mean, it's the same music there, when he's singing, Tanu ishq na chain na lage, Tanu ishq na chain na lage, Sajna tere bina, Sajna tere bina, Sada kaliyan ji nahi ragna, Sada kaliyan ji nahi ragna, Sajna tere bina. I had tears in my eyes, and just a simple thing, or one going offbeat and on, and it was so simple and elemental. And this is basically a Punjabi song. So, that's what brings people together. And when Ilayaraja started doing his stuff in Chennai, I remember when we used to go to Kerala, people wanted to know what's latest in Ilayaraja. When you went to Bombay, people wanted to know what is Ilayaraja sir doing. It was such a revolution in terms of composing style that he influenced everybody. Even today, when you see Sairaj's music, you can see clear influences of Ilayaraja's music in Marathi songs. And when AR came in and he made this sparse, simplistic kind of style, that was like accepted, and he brought a childlike joy into his compositions. So I think music and innovation in music has an ability to transcend, not music which is like others. When somebody can really take that leap and tries to doing something which is unique. And I believe taking no creative risk is the greatest risk in creativity. And that's why I said, and it's like you're playing for broke here. You're saying that you want to try everything that you wanted to do. And I've pretty much done everything that I wanted to do with music in this film. If somebody calls me, I would sing, I guess. I always sing, and my children keep saying, "You always singing, Dad. You're annoying," he says. Actually, I used to not sing that much in school and things like that. I used to, someday the other, I was saying, I think I basically started singing on shoots. So there was an old assistant of mine who came and I said, what do you say, Muthu? Isn't it that fact that I think I just started singing to take my mind off the shoot, that, you don't want to keep screaming at people, so you may as well sing and take your mind off as people fix things. You don't have to be impatient. So I asked Muthu that. He said, well, in my time it was all rap because I was screaming my head off, I guess. But over the years, I've sort of learned to, issue instructions and then go off and wait for people to set up. But in that moment, when you're in the thick of shooting and when you want something there, you can get really irritated, and then you just take your mind off and go into a rag, and suddenly your mind changes, when you sing. I think my mother had once said that, singing is actually amazing, because she came to my set and said, God, this is so difficult, 50, 60 people and you're all trying to work together to take one shot. So if you want to do cinema, you just need so many people, costumers, lightmen, actors, generators, so many things are required. But he said, she said that for my art, I don't need anything. I just need my breath. That's what makes singing so incredible. You don't need anything. You just need your breath, your life force, And I have great respect for people who can sing well and compose well and write well. It's difficult to say that. It's like a singer who's also a composer and saying that, what do you like? It's easier doing cinematography because you're dealing with physical factors of lens, composition, light, and a lot of things which are measurable. You can actually measure the amount of light, but you cannot measure the amount of softness of the light. You cannot see whether your composition is great, or your composition is having breathing space, or whether all the colors you're using, when they are put together, is giving you a sense of mood. I mean, that's where the mood in cinema is created by the cinematographer, because wrong colors can kill it, and wrong camera movement, So the move of the camera, the design of the shots, and also the kind of, the impatience that people have to tell the story, so they don't have enough long shots, so you don't know where the film is happening. I think the balance between making you experience the place and narratively moving you, those elements of design are incredible which you can control as a cinematographer, and I greatly like it. But I want to tell stories, and if you take on the responsibility of telling a story, and in my case also writing the story and writing this, dialogues and things like that, that's incredibly satisfying. But it consumes you, and it is very difficult. And when you shoot a film, you can go back home and sleep because your shots are right, it's in focus, it's fine. But when you write your own films and you direct it, when you go back home, you're thinking, did I get the pace right? Was the pitch a little too high? Was the writing bad, or was my choreography bad? Or were the actors not good? So you have always this thing that, could it have been better? Or was it too loud? Was it too subtle? This kind of doubt is there till you edit, and then it's all put together. You think that, why do you have this doubt at all? I think cinema is forgiving as a medium. As a child, I was very fascinated by National Geographic, and then when I grew up, I was watching India Today, and I would see Raghu Rai's pictures. That was a big influence, and this is before I knew anything about international photography or something like that. But I slowly started getting more and more influenced by realism, and I think Cartier-Bresson and people like that were big influences. So if I were to go to a place like Guru, and I'm shooting in Turkey, most people would just look at the black book and try to find out some images or look at location pictures. But I would go to a bookshop and say that, who's the greatest Turkish photographer? Give me his books. So I went and bought Nuri, in Turkey's equivalent of Henry Cartier-Bresson is a guy called Ara Güler. So I studied Ara Güler's work, and what was interesting is Ara Güler had come to Chennai. He'd come to Tamil Nadu, and he had taken all his pictures in Istanbul. But when he came to India, he had come to Tamil Nadu. And in some village in Jingalpet, he has shot women washing their clothes. They're wearing bright red thing, but what was in the sky was palm trees. And every picture of his in Istanbul was the horizon would have the minarets. So I said, okay, that's the motive. So if I'm going to shoot India, the horizon will be cut by a tree. But when I shoot in Istanbul, it will be the minaret. So once you have a design idea like that, then it becomes easier to construct. You need design ideas, So my design and my things, sometimes my compositions come from photojournalism, and my colors come from pop art and what I see in fashion. And so it's an amalgam of various things. I'm not for one, if this is trending today, so let me do that. I have to like something, and I should feel that, will I like this after 5 years? And that's the kind of question that I ask. So unconsciously, some kind of style has developed. I'm really fascinated by the sky, and I try in a lot of my films to include the sky, because I believe it makes people, the earth and the sky are where we are. And great images come when nature is very strong. It just so happened that I made these films here. I've tried making films in Hindi, when not succeeded. I even thought of making films in Malayalam. I'm not Catholic about which religion, which language I will make. I think every story that comes lends itself to a certain language. And in my case, I'm fairly comfortable with Hindi and Malayalam, so I don't know where I'll make my next film. I'm open to anything, but the story has to be interesting and it has to be powerfully told. I have a thriller that I'm writing now, so hopefully I won't have such a big gap between my films, and I will be a little more prolific in my thing. I shouldn't procrastinate too much and start my next film right away. Subscribe, share with your friends.